Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hussain Qazi here, your facilitator for the subject Strategic Business Reporting. Today is the day 2 for the boot camp of the SBR. And now today's agenda is about how to handle the question number 2 of SBR exam. The agenda is about how to tackle question number 2. How to tackle question number 2. The very important thing is that very important thing is that we have to consider that particular point. What is the scope of question number 2? SBR exam question number 2 scope. Scope in terms of marks. Scope of question 2. Number 1, marks. Total marks is equal to 25. Total marks 25. Number 2, exam area. The exam area is about accounting issues, that means IFRS and IAS knowledge, and oh, I'm sorry, that's 20 marks, not the 25 marks, 20 marks, sorry. 20 marks. Exam area, that's accounting issues. And ethical issues. These two things. So that is about the scope of exam. Moreover, based on past exam analysis, we observed that almost 7 marks about ethics and 18 marks for IAS or IFRS knowledge. That is what about the case. What I personally think, I'm sorry, that's 13. I'm sorry. Out of 20 marks, 7 marks about ethics and 13 marks for IAS and IFRS knowledge. I must say that this part of the exam is easy marks you can get easy marks. Easy marks handling with this question. I strongly suggest to all of you that 9 past papers plus 2 specimen. I mean, what to do for the next 1 month. 9 past papers and 2 specimen. You must have to make CBE practice with CBE platform. In one go. For example, take out your total 20 hours. For example, you spend 3 days, 7 hours per day. 7 hours per day. And total 11 papers. 11 papers means for each paper you can spend 1 hour. 1 hour for exam simulation, and then 30 to 45 minutes required to check your answer, compare your answer with the model paper. So by one go and spending 21 hours, 7 hours multiplied by 3, for example, 7 hours per day and multiply by 3, or 5 hours per day multiplied by 4, 20 hours plus 1 hour, 4 days. But do that practice at one go and develop your confidence how to handle that particular 20 marks. I will provide you a detailed guideline how to handle the 20 marks question in the exam to handle the things. Do remember that out of 20 marks, 2 marks for this part of the question, it's about professional marks. We will also discuss with this session how to handle that professional marks. This means 2 marks professional and 18 marks for knowledge. 18 marks for knowledge. Out of 18 marks, knowledge, 7 marks for ethical case, and 11 marks for accounting standards. Next 1 month, spare total 21 hours and practice all past exam plus specimen exam at one go. That's important. This is my recommendation. That's important. Automatically, your confidence will build accordingly. But do remember, practice here means I'm going to replace simulate all past exams and a specimen exam at one go. That's important. So are you people getting the, can you please reply me? Are you people getting the point? How to, what is about the scope of that particular scope and how to make preparation accordingly? That's important. Now, the very important thing is that whenever you will start that question, that is the mixture of two things: accounting standards and ethical matter. Most of the times examiner examine the thing in a way, a very distinct position with the ethics matter, a very distinct position with ethics matter and accounting issues. You will easily find out how to handle the ethics in the question and how to handle the accounting issues. It's very simple. It's not very much challenging. That's the first thing. Moreover, you can ask a question. Sir, there are 5 areas of the syllabus: accounting issues, number 2, ethics, number 3, conceptual framework, number 4, current development, number 5, performance measurement. 5 things. Sir, is any other part of the syllabus examiner examine here? A part of accounting issue, ethics, other than this? Yes, examiners sometimes also incorporate some performance measurement issues. Not very technical, but a little bit. So some area of performance measurement affect in that particular question. Number 3. So 3 areas of the syllabus integrated here: accounting standards, ethics, a little bit about performance measurement. Sir, can examiner examine the conceptual framework here? Yes, examiner can examine. Just 1 time or 2 time examiner a little bit examine conceptual framework. Otherwise, conceptual framework independently integrate with question 3 and 4. But examiner can examine. And I don't think so that any current development is a part of section A question 2. I don't think so that. Except something about cryptocurrency and like this. But this is, I must say, this is not about current development aspects. So for that's important. The very first thing. Number 2, there is a misconception with respect to the student that question 2 is about ethics. No, question 2 includes ethics. If I say spend 21 hours, I'm not saying spend 21 hours for ethics. Today's agenda is about how to handle question number 2. How to handle question 2. Question 2 includes ethics. Question 2, not exclusively ethics. It's ethics is 1 part and the scope is 7 marks. Other things, accounting standard, performance measurement, some areas, and how to handle professional marks. So if I say 21 hours, so that means 21 hours to handle the 20 marks question. So let's assume that by next 1 week, if you have attempted, if you simulated, if you practice the question for how to handle question 2, 20 marks, that means 20% of the paper you have prepared before the exam, or I must say 3 weeks ago the exam or 2 weeks ago the exam. And now you are preparing for remaining 80 marks question. So that is your confidence builder. That's something your mind will motivate you. Okay, I have done 20 marks. Now I have to work out for question 1 for 30. Then I will discuss how to handle more 30. That's 50 is over. Out of 50, I will take inshallah by 40, 42, 45. Then remaining 50, how to cross first 50 marks, then move on accordingly. That is the way you have to move accordingly with that last 1 month. That's important. So the very important thing, it's you have to clarify this misconception that question 2 is about ethics. No, question 2 is your motivation factor. That includes ethics and accounting issues as well, performance measurement as well, and maybe the concepts of payment. Are you people getting the point what I'm saying here? That's important. Of course, this area of the syllabus includes the ethics, So first of all, we must have to aware that's what specific issue of ethics we need to consider. This is what about the exam scope, whatever I have discussed here. I strongly suggest you have to read this article, examiner article about the ethics with the digital age. First of all, this document I have already mentioned the knowledge area of ethics. The knowledge area. I suggest that this document is good enough about the knowledge area of ethics. You don't need to refer the book for the knowledge area, only for the knowledge area. Do remember that knowledge examiner will not test only knowledge, but application of the knowledge. The ethics includes two parts. The ethics includes two parts. Number one, the ACCA rule book for the code of conduct or code of ethics, which as a professional accountant, we must have to follow. We must have to aware that a very basic points, that integrity, objectivity, professional competence, confidentiality, and the professional behavior. These are the things we have to obey. So a good knowledge about this for these things. The situation may arise, which we have facing the threats. The situation may arise the threats about self-interest, self-review, advocacy, familiarity, and pressurizing to someone, intimidation. These are the points. And these threats actually affect or compromising the code of ethics. Code of ethics. That is the point. So in any of the case, we need to identify, is there anything about the threats? And that is the reverse working. Some indication about the threats that affect to the code of conducts. That's the key point. That is the key point. Now, the very important point, an impression in your mind for this. An impression in your mind about this. An impression for this. That's an important point. In any of the real business situation, how to deal ethical issue. How to deal ethical issue. How to develop the case and handle the situation. Of course, this is about the business case, but it's specific to accounting issue. It's not about the audit case. It's not about a tax case. It's not about the business strategy case. It's about some ethical issue related to accounting matter. So the steps you have to follow or you have to bear in your mind. Number one, the first step is identify the relevant facts. Facts. For example, if the case about accounting issues, for example, some accounting treatment, it's something wrong here. It's something manipulation here. It's accounting issue. That's the facts. That is a fact. If there is a concern point for the related party, for example, I'm a director of a company and my wife has a significant sharing in that same company. And the situation is that in a particular scenario of the company, there is some situation about restructuring due to the COVID-19 matter. But this is what the COVID-19 effect to the business, and we are here to plan something about restructuring. But this is confidential. The board of directors, including me, this is the confidential information and we don't want to leakage that information. But my wife at my home having significant influence. So there is a concern point. If we live together, should I disclose that information? Yes or no? That is the point. So this is other than accounting. An examiner can examine. For example, I am newly appointed trainee of ACCA trainee appointed. I just started my job and I will be permanent employee subject to this if I spend 6 months time, and after that I will become the permanent employee. So I can terminate, and you as an employee can also terminate me during 6 months time. During the initial period, I've identified some issues in the company that's management is doing wrong deliberately. So I just discussed this point to the senior management, but the senior management pressurizing me, intimidating me. That's called intimidation. For the purpose of compromising some objectivity because of self-interest. So the first thing is that all of the examples identify the relevant fact, either the case about accounting issue or other than accounting issue. Number one, you must be very much clear to identify the facts. And don't be hurry. That's normally student what to do. That's a complaint from the examiner side that they are very much hurry to just plug the matter of ethics, that threats, compromising the threats, affecting to the basic principles. Don't step or don't work out with the examination in a manner that you're representing that you are working without plan. First of all, very relaxed, and initial paragraph, it's about to identify the relevant facts. That's all. Second step, first thing is that this is the fact. This is an issue. Number two, ethics. What ethical principles are compromising here? What fundamental principles are threatened? You can either you can explain wordings with any arrangement. First threats, then ethical principle, or first ethical principle, then threats. No worries about it. If as a director, I deliberately manipulate the accounts because of self-interest. That's that threats of the self-interest. Because to exaggerate profit, because my remuneration is based on profitability. So that is the threat of self-interest. And that self-interest actually compromising the ethical principle of integrity. That's you mentioned the ethical case. So develop the ethical case with compromising the principles and threats. What are the threats? And then finally, based on that case, if examiner asks, and if the situation in a manner, then you suggest the possible courses of actions. Then you suggest the possible courses of actions. For example, if I'm a junior accountant and I have identified some case, but nobody here to listen my points carefully, then I have what are the possible course of actions I can work out for this. For example, discuss the scenario with the other senior management, other executive, non-executive directors. Seek help to the ACCA helpline. Legal, I can take some legal advices. And finally, if it's nothing, it's possible, maybe possible, act as a whistleblower. But there, if you are the part of the whistleblower, be ready to face too much pressure towards the whistleblower who actually performed the whistleblower. Society and the managements and the other community, it's maybe possible that also criticize you. So you have to handle that pressure. And if it's not about the whistleblowing, the other point is that you can resign the case like this. So this is what about the alternative course of actions. It's not necessary that always we have to mention the alternative course of actions. For example, the case may be about the ethics, and my response, me in the company as a director, So I'm a director and I am deliberately manipulating the accounts. So examiner not expecting with my case to discuss any alternative course of actions. Just examiner expecting that just identify the facts and ethical principle and threats. That's all. So this is about how to deal the ethical case. What I personally suggest to you that, for example, if this is a basic case, this is the basic case, and my regular students knows very well that this is what about a question with a mid-mock. I just examined that question with the mid-mock. I wanted to discuss that point here. For example, the case MASH has a number of investment in listed shares that are designated to be measured at fair value through OCI. Okay. A new ACCA qualified accountant has started work at MASH, and she discovered that the finance director measure fair value of this investment as present value of expected dividend receipts. Means IFRS 13 fair value measurement say level 1 input if not available, then use level 2 or 3. Do you agree that with respect to the IFRS 13? That is the financial asset that designate to be measured at fair value through OCI. And if fair value at level 1 meets, then no need to go for level 2 or level 3. That is the point. Unobservable input, this calculation gives high fair value figure than quoted share price observable input. The finance director has justified this fair value measurement to the accountant on the grounds that match does not trade shares in the short term. So quoted share price understate the value and match will realize over the life of these investments. So the justification of this IFRS 13 is wrong. Justification of this IFRS 13 is totally wrong. Totally wrong. So actually, here, ACCA qualified accountant identified that issue of the finance director. Here, the requirement for ethical issue, the personality to the answer for accountant. Discuss why finance director accounting issue measure not in line with IFRS, and discuss the ethical issue that arise. Two things here. Accounting issues is separate and ethical issues is separate. A very important and key point, very important and key point here. Listen carefully. A very important and key point here. These are two separate things. You have, if there are some accounting issues, you have to identify the accounting issue independent, make heading accounting issues, IFRS 13, and work out accordingly. And separate heading ethical issue and develop the case. Identify the case, ethics, action point if it's required, with specific wordings. Come on. The number one, if this type of question means ethics type question you are working. So some of the statements, some of the workings are very standard, which can use these standard wordings can use to get professional marks. How to get professional marks? You will get professional marks in a way that how to develop the case of ethics. For example, if you develop your answer with these logical sequence, not in haphazard manner, automatically you will get 2 marks. What does that mean? How to handle that ethical issue. You just, what is the right way? What is the professional way? The professional way is that whatever the issue here, identify the facts. Then develop the ethical case, compromising ethical principle, threats, and what fundamental principles are threatened. And then if the situation is about accountant here, then what alternative course of action? If you follow this sequence, automatically you will be able to get the 2 marks, professional marks. Normally, I say that 4 professional marks, 2 ethics, 2 performance measurement, that are free marks. I must say that before starting of the exam of SBR, even you are at home, even at that point, the revision, the working must be in a manner you must say that before the exam, the 4 marks is in my pocket. Is in my pocket, 4 marks. Actually, I will perform the exam for 96 marks. 4 marks in my pocket, I will handle accordingly. Are you getting the point? Yes, I will tell you all the things, alternative course of action with this case. Don't worry. But the point is that how to deal with these things. Number one, this paragraph, it's good enough to start ethical points. Standard paragraph. Financial statements are important to stakeholder who requires financial statement faithful, represent the performance position of the company so they can make the decision. The accountant should comply with fundamental ethical of principles. This is what a standard wording start with. For any ethical case, you can start with this paragraph, this one. Number one, you can memorize it, no worries. Or you just 2 or 3 times read it. Okay, you will get the idea. Now move towards the case. By following code of ethics, it is more likely that faithful representation of company will offered because needs of user will be prioritized. The accountant should be mindful of threats of fundamental ethical principles. Number one, threats. In doing so, accountant should consider relevant facts, ethical issues, fundamental principle threatens. 3 things need to consider. What are the facts? Fundamental principles, ethical issue, fundamental principles. That's the point. Then start with this main body of the answer, that is accounting implications and ethical, and then make a conclusion paragraph. The conclusion is like action point. What are the action point? Accountant must not therefore comply with management instructions. Number one. Accountant should remind the management or the management here, finance director, obligation to comply with code of conducts. These are the action points. Not obey the orders. Communicate with the management. If they are unable to approach directly, they could consider talking to those governance, in particular non-executive directors, to explain the situation. 3 things. These are the action points. Not comply, communication. First thing, this one, not comply. Number 2, communicate or remind to the finance director. If they're not convinced it's not possible, communicate with the other part of the management. Third one, they could also seek help from ACC helpline and legal advice. If the situation cannot be resolved, accountant could consider resigning and seeking employment elsewhere. These are the action points, and you can work out accordingly. It's not about bullet, huh? It's just about the wordings. These are the points you have to bear in your mind. Now start. For example, this is the case, whatever we discuss MASH. Come on. Number 1, sir, what is about the identify the facts? Identify the facts means accounting issue. In this case, identify the fact means whatever something wrong happened in the situation. If accounting issue, that is accounting matter. If something about disclosure matter, disclosure matter. So first of all, this is what about accounting. Straight accounting issue. Knowledge of IFRS 30, connect with the case. Knowledge case. Once again, knowledge and case. That's all. Then start with ethics. Number one, starting paragraph. Standard. Standard paragraph. This is also standard paragraph. The accountant should comply with this. All these standard. These are the standard paragraph. Then start with ethical case. In this case, that issue is the threat about self-interest, compromising the principle of integrity and the objectivity. If director is unaware about the IFRS 13, that's the compromise of the professional competence. If they do deliberate, that is something threats of self-interest, compromising integrity. If that is unintentional and director unaware about IFRS 13, that is professional competence. That's the ethical matter. And then finally, the action point. Same action points, whatever we discussed already. This is the action point. What to do? Develop the case, identify the fact. This is the facts. Then start ethics. Develop the case of ethics. First of all, start journal. This is what called knowledge. I must say, knowledge of ethics. And then connect with the case. This is the case. And final action points. Finally, action point. The key principle is that either about accounting or non-accounting matter. This is the core thing you have to handle. How to deal any ethical issues. Candidates, can you please reply me? Is that clear to all of you? Takia, can you please reply me? All others, please reply me. That is the point. Now it's time to apply all these things with a particular question. This is the question of SBR December 2018. You people already have that particular document. You people already have that particular document. I have already given you the document accordingly. I strongly suggest you have to read that particular question once. You have to read that particular question once. Please read this question once. You have 2 minutes. Okay, now, what is that particular requirement of a question? Now read the requirement. Okay, come on. Discuss how Hallam property should have been accounted for and explain the implications of the financial statement and the debt covenant of the Ficuston. This 7 marks includes 3 components. Property should be accounted for, implications in the financial statement, and debt covenant. Question number 2, having accounting issues of the Hallam property, financial statement, and debt component. So something about performance measurement with this question. Number 2, in accordance with IFRS 15, discuss whether revenue arising from sales contract should be recognized at stage of completion basis. This A and B part exclusively for accounting issues. C part. Explain ethical issues which may arise from managing director and accountant for each of the scenario. Professional marks will be rewarded for 2C for the quality of discussion. That's the C part exclusively for the C part, that's about ethics and the professional marks. Sir, is this professional marks related to question 2 or it's about ethics, handling ethics? Do you remember that? Question 2 professional marks is about handling the ethical issue. That means 7 marks plus 2 marks means drafting of ethical issue plus material of ethical issue. That's called 9 marks. The accounting issue here, I must mention here, the equation is that 20 marks is equal to ethics draft 2 marks plus knowledge 7 marks plus accounting issue 11 marks. That is the equation. So you have to handle that situation accordingly. Are you getting the point? How to spend the time accordingly, all the things. Candidates, can you please reply me? Are you with me? I strongly suggest all of you that I hope that today's session is also valuable for you. The things how to handle it. Today we will discuss the SBR question 2, inshallah. Tomorrow we will discuss the group accounts matters. Day after tomorrow, for half of the session, group accounts, rest of the matter, something performance measurement, and so on accordingly. Inshallah. Candidates, I personally suggest that you have to re-energize yourself and take a 5 minutes short break. 5 minutes short break. Take a break. 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, start once again. Already all set. Read the question. The following is an extract from the statement of financial position of Fiskerton, a public limited entity, 30th September exchange. Okay, these are the details. Non-current asset, current asset, and finance side, that's equity, total 10, 20.5151 and 70. And the non-current liabilities, that's 50,000. Current liability, 1,20,815. The bank loan has covenant. The bank loan has covenant attached, whereby it will become immediately repayable should the gearing ratio, that is long-term debts to equity, that is long-term debts to equity, this is equity, of Fiskerton exceed 50%. Fiskerton has a negative cash balance 30 September exchange. Okay. So first of all, we have to identify what is, if we are going to read that particular question, that must have to identify that what is the gearing ratio. Now gearing ratio, that is 50,000 debts divided by equity, 100 plus 21.151, 70.253, that is 49.7. So it's just about to reach. So number one issue, that's covenant. Number two, Hallam property included within the non-current asset of Fiskerton is a property in Hallam which has been leased to Edingley under 40 years. So non-current asset, a property which has been leased to. That's our property, we have leased out to. The property was acquired $20 million, was October 7th, and was immediately leased to Edingley. So the Hallam acquired a property, and immediately once it, the 20 years ago, $20 million on 1st January 7, when they acquired the property, they have immediately leased out, rent out. The asset was expected to have a useful life 40 years at the date of acquisition and have a minimal residual value. Fiskerton has classified the building as an investment property and has adopted a fair value model. This is the point. Yes, this is the point. The property was initially revalued 22 million, 31st March exit. An interim financial statement indicated that gearing was 51% prior to revaluation. Managing director was made aware of this breach contract, so instructed that property should be revalued. And the property is now carried at 28 million, which was determined by the sale of similar size property 30th September exchange. This property was located in much more prosperous area and built with a high grade of material. An independent professional valuer has been estimated the value no more than 22 million. So the managing director has argued that fair value should be referred to an active market and refusing the adjust of financial statement, even though he knows it is contrary to international accounting standards. So what you people say is that with that particular case, what are the relevant matters that's identified? Do remember that you have to stick with the requirement. The requirement A, that is absolute about accounting. It's not about ethics. So number one, how the Hallam property should be accounted for, the first thing. And what the implication in the financial statement, number two. and debt covenant of the Fickerson. Three things. That's important. That's the point. That's the point. Whatever the ethical matters, that something deliberately knows, and all these things, the issue of valuation of the property, that's IFRS 13. And that's property, it's about I-16 or investment property. All these aspects, it's about accounting. And the impacts of this accounting, if something was wrong, and that's impact on the debt covenant, that is the part of A that should be revised. But any ethical issue that we have to control our emotions, because ethics matter must be part of the C. Must be at C part. That's important. Now come on. Number 2, sales contract. That is something IFRS 15. Fickerson has entered into sale contract for the construction of asset. Sale contract for construction of asset with a customer, whereby customer pays initial deposit. And the deposit is refundable only if Fickerson fails to complete the construction asset. The remainder of the payable is delivery of the asset. It's payable delivery of the asset. If customer defaults on contract prior to completion, Fickerson has a right to retain deposit. A managing director believes that completion of asset is performed over time, revenue should be recognized accordingly. And he has persuaded accountant to include deposit and percentage of remaining balance for construction work in the revenue to pay. So again, this is about the question of accounting. According to IFRS, discuss whether revenue from sale contract recognized on stage of completion means 1 point or over the period. 1 point or over the period. That is the point. So IFRS 15 recommendation is that there are 3 situations that need to consider. And the principle is about, that is, we have to consider either 1 point or over the period. Over the period. Over the period, if any of one condition meets out of 3, simultaneously receive by the customer and consume, and 2 more conditions, like developing an asset and providing benefit to the customer. Number 3, developing an asset and there is no use for the seller. All these things. Okay, what the reference of IFRS 15, I'm not discussing right now very detail. Okay. C part, explain ethical issue may arise managing director and accountant. The very important point here, ethical issues having 2 different points. Managing director and accountant. The action points related to accountant, not the managing director. But ethical case will develop with managing director. Ethical case will develop with managing director and then conclude with the accountant aspects. That's the key point. That is the key point. First of all, very important. You asked me the question. If this type of the question, the very important thing you have to consider here, first of all, you have to cover up all accounting issues first. You have to cover up all accounting issues here. Cover up. So part A and B cover the accounting issues. Make a heading, accounting issues. Part A, Hallam property. Accounting issue, part B, IFRS 15. Then C part, ethical. But the very important point before entering anything in details, you have to work out to plan your answer accordingly. You remember we discussed the very important point of the plan yesterday. The plan about number one, time management, and number two, marks management. The number one, time management, number two, marks management. That's important. Time management, very straight. If I'm going to attempt the 7 marks, for example, part A, 7 marks. Part A, 7 marks is equal to 7 multiplied by 1.8, almost 12 minutes. Marks management, what to write before attack according to the marks. So think about it. First of all, you have to think what to write. Brain exercise. Next 1 month, I have provided you the roadmap for the question number 2. Before attempting the question, before exam simulation, before attacking, you have to plan first what to write. Make a key points. Develop the key points in your brain or with a piece of paper or a scratch card with the CB format. So plan is very much important. Here, the accounting issues. There are 2 accounting issues, Hallam property and service contract. Ethics, EI, ethical issues, 7 marks, plus performance measurement, 2 marks, 9 marks. So you have to very much stick with the marks management. How much we have to write to get the marks. The very important thing, if this type of the question, make heading for accounting implications. Make heading. All things here mentioned. For planning 4 minutes, execution 8 minutes. You have to practice the thing in this manner. So are you really interested, or you must have to reply me whatever I suggest to you, that will you obey that to perform that? That 20, you have to spend your 21 hours, take out the time of 21 hours and then simulate all past paper question 2 in one go. Are you ready for this? Can you please reply me? So I strongly suggest, don't tell me now, don't tell me. You have immediately now, you have to decide with your calendar. You have to decide, open your calendar, at what 3 days you will spend. For example, coming weekend, 11, 12, 13, or next weekday, mark the day, that 3 days, 7 hours multiplied by 3, or 4 days, 5 multiplied by 4. Write in your diary, mark. And do remember, don't make this strategy that once I will complete the syllabus area, then I will start the practice question. No. You have to practice the question and complete the syllabus area simultaneously. Simultaneously, that's the key point. That is the key point. So candidates, the important point is that lock your dates, lock your diary, lock your calendar, spare your time and work out with this direction. That's important. and you have to work out, and your result will move in this manner, zigzag, up, down, but keep moving. That's important. Now, marks management. Number one, the very important thing, discussion, the key ethical principle application to the scenario later on. But the very important point, the first thing is that the correct accounting treatment of the lease, that is about 3 marks. The question is that, is this, we report that particular property as investment property. Because here we are as a lessor. If we hand over asset to someone for the major useful life, so we have to distinguish either the finance lease or the operating lease. Correct accounting treatment of the lease as lessor. As lessor. Means finance or operating. If this is about, and this is about 3 marks. The very important point. So we have to, if this is a finance lease, then this property must not have to recognize in our books. We have to de-recognize the property and recognize the lease receivable and make a schedule for the rental incomes. Oh, sorry, installment incomes or rental income, so-called. Over the period of time, over the period of time, we will receive the installments and then recognize the interest income accordingly. That is the accounting treatment. And you have to work out this. Classified investment property should have to this. And also incorporating the point. There are 3 requirements with part A. What 3 requirements? Number 1, Hallam property, how should accounted for? That is the first thing, 1 mark. That should be accounted for as the lessor and the finance lease lessor, where investment property, the property should be, or the investment property should be de-recognized and the lease receivable should be recognized. Number 1. What are the implications with the financial statement? That is about the numbers. That is rectification of error. And then debt covenant. So these 3 things. How property should account for, number 1. Financial statement extract by correction of error. That is what you need to talk yourself. That's what to do. And then covenant. The gearing ratios. After adjustment, what will be the gearing ratio? The gearing ratio will increase from 49.8% to 54.1. And moreover, this covenant breached and your negative cash balance, that's compromise. That's compromise as a going concern. Breach the covenant, Negative cash balance, the going concern. So the financial statement must be made with the breakup basis. Should be breakup basis. What I personally think, that is answer is over here. But the model answer more explained with this point. For 3 marks, that's enough. That's enough and it's enough. But that is all in deep. That it is likely that non-current and non-current liability should be reclassified to current and recorded as realizable value. That is breakup basis. Fickerson should be able to renegotiate it with the bank. The uncertainties, the ability to continue trade should be disclosed. But this is not necessary. That is enough. Because the marks limited here. Now, the next point, sale contract IFRS 15. Can you please reply me? Are you people with me? Sale contract. Once again, time management. Once again, the time management. How much the time, plan. Not necessary to put the things in a writing manner. Develop in your mind. Marks management. What to write. First of all, we have to put the knowledge. And case. Performance satisfied over time or point of time. And then conclude with the recognition of the revenue. That is the point. So this is what about the IFRS 15. According to IFRS 15, at inception, you have to determine how you will recognize the revenue at one point or over the period of time. And here, Fickerson only has a right during production of asset over initial deposit. There is no enforceable right to remaining balance at construction take place. Therefore, not able to receive payment from the performance date. So first thing is that they are not able to receive 100% payment. And they have to repay the deposit if the construction is not according to the mark. Fail the company of the company. Means two things important. Not able to get the 100% money before the performance of the contract. Number two, the deposit can also be refundable. So that things reflect this is the single performance obligations. Otherwise, you can refer the complete knowledge of the IFRS 15 you can put here. But this is not the time for the discussion. So out of this is 4 marks, the limited marks. You have to squeeze your answer, limited. Then 1 mark, how to recognize the revenue. Revenue should not be recognized at stage of completion, but deferred and recognized at point in time. That is on delivery to the asset to the customer. That is the. This is 1 mark. Previously, the 3 marks, that is about what will happen with respect to the knowledge and the case. But by single performance obligation, what is about the case? 1 mark case. Once they will deliver, then we will recognize the revenue. The final point, how to handle the ethics. The final point, how to handle the ethics. Once again, the time management, Once again, the marks management. Seven plus 9, 2 marks. I suggest 9 marks. Plan, execute. What are the things? These are the things. Number 1, application. Application of the following decision. Number 1, classification of property as investment property. Revaluation and manipulation of debt. Ethical implication and resolution. Do remember, here ethics is about part A. It's ethics not connected with part B. Do you agree that point? Can you please reply me? Do you agree? Ethics only connected with part A, not with part B. Now, we have to start here. And the professional marks too. Okay, ethical issues. Number 1, first of all, the very important thing. Here class, the very important. Read the requirement. Explain any ethical issue which may arise from managing director and the accountant from each of the scenarios. So you have to develop the ethical case with respect to managing director and accountant with both point of view. Come on. Number 1, either accountant or finance director. This is what about the common paragraph. Kick start. Here about the action point as well. Number 1, this one. Standard paragraph. Just start with this. Financial statement important to stakeholder. Assume financial statement to faithfully represent the performance and position company to make the adequate investment decision. An accountant finance and accountant should comply with the fundamental ethics of the principle set out there. And all these things link the above 2 points. The following the code of ethics, it is more likely to faithful representation of the companies. It's all standard wording. Number 1, the accountant should be mindful threats of fundamental principle. In doing so, accountant should consider facts, ethical issue involved, and fundamental principle, and all these things. First, you have to split your description with according to the requirement. Number 1, accountant. Number 2, managing director. Clear? 2 headings. What are the ethical case of the accountant? Accountant have ethical duty of professional competence and act with due care and attention. This may be genuine mistake, but even would not be expected from professional qualified accountant. What is the ethical case of accountant? They must be professional. Here the case that the accountant must be professional competent. If something wrong happened, non-deliberate, so there is still issue of the ethics that's they are not professionally competent. Number 2, managing director appears to happy to manipulate financial statement. Number 1, threat of self-interest. Why self-interest? Because not to cross that covenant. Why self-interest? For job security. So initially you have to develop ethical case. The managing director affecting to the self-interest and threats that affect to the integrity and the professional behaviors. That's compromising the principles. So develop the case, number one. After that, and also the matter of intimidation. For example, the sales contract. Here they refer the sales contract as well, because the major issue is about part one. But part two, sales contract, there are two different things. One point of time or over the period. Director says that must have to work out over the period. I'm taking my words back. Here, examiner mentioned to ethics for both scenario, for A and B as well. Here, finance director wants to recognize some of the revenue now over the period, but actually that must have to recognize at one point of time. And pressurizing, that's intimidation threats. Finally, what should be the action point? Do reply me. This action point, actually, if you are going to write the answer of action point, this action point from whom point of view? Accountant or finance director? Do reply me. If you don't reply me, I will not move forward. Yes, accountant. And same standard paragraph. The standard paragraph. This is what about the standard paragraph. Standard paragraph. That the accountant must not influence by managing director. And the financial statement should be transparent and free from biasness. Instead, the managing director should remind of their ethical responsibility. Accountant may need to consider professional advice should the managing director refer to correct the financial statement. Like this is also the action point or the action point we discussed above. This one. This one, action points like this. Very simple. Standard verdicts. So, ethics case plus action 2 marks for the professional, then main body of the ACC ethics and the threads 7 marks, that's 9, total 9 marks. That means if you lay out your ethics in this logical manner, means number one, starting paragraph, then develop the ethical case. Develop the ethical case. How to develop? Threats. Number one, threats. Number two, compromising ethical principles. These need to connect with the accounting issues. And then the action point is, if any. This is the complete package of the ethical case to drive. Then you will be able to get the main context marks and the professional marks as well. So can you please reply how to cover professional marks? Can you please reply me? Now, you people are able. What do you think? Are you people able to get to understand that how to get the ethics case of the professional marks? Can you please reply, all of you? Thank you very much. Now, another important point, another important point, another very important point. Based on past papers, SBR examiner also examined ethical matters, the ethical issues that is beyond the accounting errors and the malpractices. Examiner sometimes examine the ethical case, the question 2, having ethics, but ethics matter beyond basic accounting errors and the malpractice. Like this is the case of the March-June 21 case. But I strongly suggest that once again, we have to take 5 minutes break to re-energize, then we will work out accordingly. Okay, before moving towards another part of the situation of the ethics, we have to cover another point. The examiner report for December 18. The question we have discussed here, now it's time for the discussion. The examining team shares their observation from the marking process to highlight strength and weakness in the candidate's performance and constructive advice for the future candidates. Now, for this question that we have attempted. Now, come on. Number 1, question 2 require very important point, very highlighting, very important point. The question 2 will require candidates to discuss a specific accounting issue provided in the question scenario. Further discuss the ethical implications of certain events, circumstances which have occurred with the corporate environment. The ethical problem will extend beyond simple accounting errors and malpractice. In this question, candidates were required to discuss how property should be accounted for, with explaining the implication of the accounting treatment of the financial statement and debt component. Okay, this is what expectation. Now, number 1, the very important. The property should not have been classified investment property. Classification had implication of gearing, debt covenant, and entity were going concern. Many candidates felt that investment property classification was justified, where candidates concluded some justification property was investment property. Some marks awarded. The next line is very much important, where candidates made a reasonable attempt of calculation, then the own figure rule, OFR, was used to justify the conclusion by candidate. What is the meaning of OFR, own figure rule? A lot of students ask that, sir, if the question have 4 marks and initial 2 marks we have done wrong with the calculation, but remaining 2 marks for the theoretical aspect we have done right. So will the examiner give some mark? That is the answer. If you have done something wrong at initial part, the examiner will assume that figure as own figure rule. And the rest of the part which you have done right with the logical sequence, the examiner will give you the mark. So in a particular scenario, some part is right, some part is wrong, you will get the marks. Assuming whatever you have done, examiner will assume that's own figure rule. Is this the golden point for you? Yes or no? Do reply me. Okay, next. Many candidates discussed the fair value IFRS 13 at length and quoted various levels of fair valuation. In these circumstances, few marks were given to quoting IFRS 13. Means a relevant answer. The point is a relevant answer, as it was not the point of question. Again, it is important that candidates answer the question and discuss how property should have been accounted and implication of incorrect financial statement and debt covenant. Examiner mentioned that the always answer your question according to the requirement. The details of IFRS 13 is not important here. That is the point. Okay. Moreover, the second part of the question required discussion whether the revenue arising for sale contract recognized stage of completion. Okay, as mentioned, IFRS 915 in the question to prompt regression regurgitation of 5 steps of the revenue. This type of answer gains few marks as this level of exam required knowledge, candidate knowledge of a specific requirement. This is the case, candidate should have stated entity, determine whether it's promised to construct asset, performance obligation, satisfied over the time. Generally, candidates obtain at least half marks on this part. Means the challenge, means the knowledge. Okay, the very important aspect is this one. The final part. Consider ethical consequence of the action of the managing director and the pressures placed upon accountant to agreed incorrect accounting practice. This part of the question was generally well answered. Full marks often awarded. The main issue, this is the question part. The main issue was that some candidates simply quoted ethical guidance without applying the scenario. So rote learning just mention the list of code of conducts, identify some 2 points, threads, you will not able to get marks. Professional marks were awarded for the quality of ethical discussion, and where candidates did not apply ethical guidance of the scenario, further marks were lost. If you not work out with the logical sequence, you will not able to get quality or professional marks. So are you getting the point? Whatever I am telling you about the marks management, time management, meeting the examiner expectation, it's all about examiner report. Do remember that the documents I've shared with you already, that's extract of the examiner report. Is that clear? Can you please reply me? Is this are these examiner report points and the discussion I'm working that is valuable for you? Yes or no? Now it's your responsibility to bear all the things in your mind and then work out accordingly. Now, last point. Okay. Examiner sometimes, like March, June 21, examined the question of ethics, the question to SBR ethics, comparatively in a different way. Comparatively in a different way. In a different way. Means issue of ethics, but it's not conventionally like accounting issue, something uh, wrongly happened or manipulated or deliberately uh, uh, deliberately manipulate the IFRS matters, for example, the provisions or the IS 40 like this. It's something different. For example, this is the matter. Bismuth company is a mining company. Investors in Bismuth company receive earning from mining projects, a return on investment. The year end 31st December X7. Blockchain technology provide information about ethical issue created by implementing blockchain technology. Blockchain, we are not here to discuss about in depth about what is blockchain. No, blockchain, the matter of the blockchain, it's actually about something to develop using the technology, using the database, including the customer database, including the supplier database, including companies information in a way to utilize our business, to utilize that data and business become more efficient. But with respect to the blockchain technology, we must have very much conscious that we must have very much conscious that the data must be managed in ethical way. The source of data must be managed in a very ethical way. Now, come on. Bismuth company plans to implement blockchain technology to store all of its data relating to mines, trading, and certified the ethical source of all its raw material. The chief accountant, Miss Pleasant, is currently developing a blockchain technology that will filed for patent. Miss Pleasant has only recently taken up the post, discovered that work then has previous employer, Gypsum company, is relevant to the project. If Miss Pleasant disclose this information, it will compromise the patent process at Gypsum company, but will consolidate her position as chief accountant in Bismuth company. When she left the employment of the Gypsum company, she signed a confidentiality agreement, but the clause were not clear or specific about information could be shared with whom. So this is a very different situation. Miss Pleasant facing the issue of apparently the facing the issue of the confidentiality of the previous employer about the information of the previous employer, but she signed the confidentiality agreement, but the clause was not clear. So what to disclose and what I not to disclose. Moreover, this is a comparatively different question. It's not about the manipulations or like this, but ethical. Miss Pleasant has significant knowledge of blockchain. This is another case, huh? But the finance director, another role finance director, Mr. Franklin has limited knowledge. Do you remember? Mr. Franklin is finance director. So there is a question about professional competence. This is my statement. Huh? I have mentioned that statement. Competence. Question about professional competence of it or the new business model that Bismuth company is trying to develop. Mr. Franklin has told her that there is no need to spend significant amount of time in creating a technology to ethically source material. Number one, the concern point of the finance director previous, the professional con. Number two, the question about moral values and ethics. means just collecting the data irrespectively. That's it. We are considering ethics or not. Misplacement is you are reading the question and developing the mindset in your own. Miss Pleasant is worried about Mr. Franklin's lack of technical and legal knowledge, as she feels that it will affect the development of technology. In addition, some of the data concerning ethically sourced material has gone missing, and she thinks Mr. Franklin has erased the data to try and sabotage the project. This is the very serious issue. Mr. Franklin has told that board of directors that has in-depth knowledge of technology, and this is what Mr. Franklin has told to the director. That is something wrong statement. This is what about the question of March 21. And this is what about the extract of the ethics. The A part related to IFRS 15, that was independent, no ethical matters. B part, that is related to ethics. Discuss ethical issue raised by implementation blockchain technology for both chief accountant and finance director, including any appropriate actions which should be considered to resolve this issue. 8 marks question, professional marks 2. Then what to say? If this is not the normal conventional type question, in total 11 past paper questions, 9 past paper, 2 specimen, 9 practice questions. You will face 2 types of question. You will observe 2 types of questions. Number 1, like previous, ham property, accounting issues, some ethical matters, connect with the case. Other points, very random, very unexpected, like this case. That is beyond the ethical issues, beyond the accounting implications. But the business case, that's a key point. But the rule to develop the ethical matter, the case for ethical matter remains same. That is number 1, identify the facts. Here, not about the accounting facts, but other issues. But and independently, with respect to chief accountant, with respect to finance director. The first case of the chief accountant about the confidentiality. The second case about the role of finance director, the ethical case for the finance director, and also facing by chief accounting some here issue, because chief accountant knows that what is going on with respect to the finance director. So here the term action points, you must reply me. The action points here we will discuss. Here we will write with whom point of view, chief accountant or finance director. You reply me. Chief accountant or finance director. Do reply me. Very good. With respect to the accountant. With respect to the accountant. So now, number 1, you have to plan. Number 1, plan. That's important, plan. And then write, discussion the key principal scenarios. The confidentiality, competence, action points, professional marks, all these things. The very important point, the first thing is confidentiality. For confidentiality, you have 3 marks. Someone asked me that for 3 marks, how much to write? For 3 marks, you have to write at least 2 points, but 2 complete points. 2 complete points. Two complete points. So first of all, the issue is about Miss Pleasant. Miss Pleasant is a difficult position as required to information. And do remember, this question is not about what is right, what is wrong. Your judgment, your knowledge, that's important. In general, she should respect confidentiality of the information. Number two, not to disclose information to the third party unless there is legal or professional right. So first thing is that about the emphasizing on confidentiality. Don't break the rule. Respect the confidentiality. No disclose until some legal or professional rights or obligations, some legal. And this is what about not to disclose for the self-interest. However, the nature of confidentiality agreement need to relevant here. Although not to disclose, but what the nature of the agreement you have signed in. That's important. What the nature. So this agreement may have to order protect commercial sensitive information because they are the competitors, the previous employer and the new employer. And if the agreement is not clear or specific, like the case, then it will be left upon ethical conscience. Means wish, the voice of heart of Miss Pleasant as whether she should disclose the information or not. It's not possible that Bismuth or any management pressurizing to Miss Pleasant to disclose the information. And Miss Pleasant have signed the contract. Although signed the contract, is not specifically mentioned what to disclose, what not to disclose. But of course, whatever the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, whatever the agreement she signed, that was about some commercial sensitiveness. That was a sensitivity about the commercial aspects. But it's not 2 + 2 is 4. It's not 100% black and white here. So it's totally conscience. That means wish. That is the voice of inner voice of Miss Pleasant. So that is the point. I know this is something about very much judgment based here, but this is the case. Moreover, the second is about professional competence. This is what about the case related to the finance director. First of all, have to develop the case. Professional competence importance for any accountant or accounting professional person. He or she need to develop or I must say he or she must have to update about the new environment, including the technology. That's important. That means up to date with the environment. That's called the requirement of the professional competency, including digital literacy. So here the case, accountant should relevant decision useful, ensure right technology application, best interest of the business, new business model, present opportunity and accountant and so on. So the point is that in this case, Mr. Franklin obviously not aware importance of entity being environmentally aware, and he has told accountant not to worry about ethically sourced material. Two things important here. Mr. Franklin Franklin, two things. Number one, professional competence. And number two, the misstatement. So actually, the case is about this lack of digital literacy. Mr. Franklin. One moment. Mr. Franklin, case digital literacy, ethical source data, and misstatements. Three things here for the ethical case. Not professional competent, that's about the digital literacy. Ethically sourced data, he is least concerned, and deliberately misstate. These three cases. Now, after explanation of this, what are the action points? And especially action point with respect to Miss Pleasant. Here the case. Can you please reply me? All of you are with me. A very different case. Here. The action points, yes. The point is that action by the chief accountant and the model answer discuss only the whistleblowing. Here only one action point here mentioned, suggested by the model answer. Here model answer not mention about discussion with the management, not mention the help desk of the ACCA, not mention resign, only discuss the whistleblowing. And discussion about only the whistleblowing. All the things about the whistleblowing. Only about the whistleblowing. Because the question is that when we will make a discussion, the action point about as a whistleblower, this is only the case where the situation is very severe. And here the situation is very severe means that something affect to the company's brand or reputation. That is something affect to the ethical matters, affect to the image of the company, the survival of the company, the going concern issues. Then you will work out for the whistleblower. And whatever you done with the whistleblower about your earlier studies in AA or other studies, how to develop the case of whistleblower. Like when a person decides to make action as a whistleblower, that person, if he or she is right, need motivation to stick with the condition. And he or she have a good confidence and the evidence as well. All the evidences. Also, they will face the pressure from the colleagues of the business. And if something in the media, also the relatives and the friends, someone critic as well, but be stick, be confident. All support evidence must be available. So these are the points that's mentioned here. So you can read that particular answer accordingly. But moreover, you can find this, the solution, the bitmus, but I just read about yes. Requirement C. Yes. Requirement C deal with the ethical issue raised by knowledge gained at previous employer that was compromised patent application, but same time would consolidate chief accountant position. In addition, chief accountant feels finance director little knowledge of technology, but director told board to complete opposite. Finally, chief accountant feel that all these things. This is important. Many candidates discuss the difficulties faced by chief accountant and the respect which should be shown toward the confidentiality of the information as a result of business relationship. That is first part. Candidate discuss the nature of ethical conscience of chief accountant, means wish, their inner feelings, and any decision to disclose information. Further, candidates discuss fundamental principle of professional competence, due care, and the require accountant to have sufficient training and carry out tasks not intentionally mislead the employer. This is important. Generically, 1 mark is allocated for each well-discussed point raised by the candidates. This is the important. If candidates just listed ethical principle without application, then maximum 2 marks would be given. Do reply me. How much total marks available for ethics other than professional marks? Do reply me. How much total marks given? How much total marks for ethics? 7. But if you just list down the code of conduct and the threats, you will be able to get only 2 marks. Marks are allocated as a result of using scenario to demonstrate understanding of ethical issue. That's important. Action points required by chief accountant in the published answer were more subtle in this question and looked at act of whistleblowing and issues surrounding the process. However, if candidates discuss actions such as seeking advice from colleague of ACC or others, then these were appropriate answer and award credit. Are you getting the point? The model answer, it's not only the exhaustive answer, only specific answer. Here, if the action point you mention something other, that's the standard one. We can also get the marks. Many candidates seek to think that accountant should resign immediately if they meet an ethical dilemma. Professional marks awarded for realistic discussion for ethical issues, set out scenario together with sensible appropriate actions. How you will get the professional marks? What do you think? Just type the answer. How you will get the professional marks? What the impression you have developed? How you will be able to get the professional marks? The answer is that we have to build the scenario first, then apply the ethical principle and the threats with the case, finally the action points. This one, logical sequence. This one. You will be able to apply with this manner, you will get it. Most candidates identify key ethical issue in this scenario, achieve good marks, but fewer were able to suggest reasonable actions to situation. Also, some candidates simply cut paste large section of exhibit and then stated this is an ethical issue. Sir, cut paste allowed? It's allowed to draft the things. It's allowed to draft the things. It's allowed. But copy paste in a manner to draft the answer, to support the draft. This action would attract no marks. candidates have to be sensible when using the cut paste tools. Examination not reward a candidate simple repeating the question back to the examiner. If candidates wish to use cut paste tool, then it should be restricted to part of sentence that are relevant, and they should add their own comments, and in this question appropriate actions. You can copy paste the things but add on the appropriate actions. It is very easy for the marker to recognize the answer that have been cut and paste. The last statement means the marker, the checker, it's not foolish. It's you you are expecting that just copy paste the things and I will get the marks. It's not possible. So candidate, that is all about the today's session. The the final wording of today's session is that whatever we discuss with this today's sessions, you have to apply all these things with the remaining past papers. Spare 21 hours and start working accordingly. This is the question, March June 21 question. Bismith. March June 21. Candidates, I really suggest to all of you, you must have to subscribe my YouTube channel, because I publish the regularly the material on my YouTube channel, including all the P2P, all the SBR Bootcamp material will update on the YouTube channel. Subscribe that YouTube channel, number one. Number two, the very important thing, I need a constructive feedback. Constructive feedback. The plus point, the minus point, all the things, a constructive feedback on the WhatsApp group about the first 2 days session of the SBR Bootcamp. If it's valuable for you, you must have to mention why it is valuable for you. Number one, if you wanted to make some constructive criticism, you have to critique. So we have to overcome that criticism by next 3 days. It's for the sake of your benefit. Do reply me, do make a feedback on the WhatsApp group. Furthermore, thank you very much for your valuable donation that you support with us for our charitable work to overcome the hunger and some medical treatments. If you wanted to donate more, you can coordinate me accordingly. Finally, inshallah, we will meet same time, 9 p.m. with the target of the question 1. I strongly suggest that you have to make a constructive feedback on the WhatsApp group or the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum. You will get this document and the video with the same Google link with the name day 2. Thank you very much. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum. Any question you can ask me accordingly. You can ask me the question. Thank you. But don't forget for the constructive feedback. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. I'm waiting for your constructive feedback.